Okay, there you go.
Okay. So let's kind of stop it every like 10 minutes and then just press on and off just so they're not big chunky videos. Okay? So we're gonna finish the sleeve today. We're gonna have 4 pieces on the sleeve. We're gonna have an upper sleeve, an under sleeve, an upper sleeve lining, and an under sleeve lining. Okay? And then next week, we're gonna do the lapel and the collar, and then we're gonna do all the linings, and by the afternoon, your paddles are gonna be pristine and perfectly finished. And then you can go,
So with the lines extended?
with absolutely everything. And you guys are going to be able to go ahead and start cutting it. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do the vent right here. Okay? I'm just gonna take the measurement that I have in here, but I mean, they're not necessarily standard, and they're not in the book. So you guys have to follow the video for this. So I'm gonna show you guys, if you see, there is an extension on the under sleeve. Remember, they're both cut on the elbow. So there is an extension on the under sleeve. It's gonna probably could be considered the facing aspect of this vent. And then we're gonna have the actual corner where the vent is gonna finish. Okay? So we're gonna figure out how deep is going to be that extension. I think we can do it like 1.25 inches. Let's do 1.25 inches, right? And then we're gonna do the actual sleeve opening 4 inches. Okay? Remember, we're working with no seam allowances. Okay? We're gonna start with the extended out of the edge of the vending. Okay? So we're gonna measure along the back. See, I have the 2 notches here. I'm gonna measure the 4 inches, and I'm going to make a punch hole right here, because when I'm going to sew this sleeve, I'm gonna sew it only up to there. This is gonna be open. Everybody okay? Mm-hmm. How much did we say that we're gonna do the fold? 1.5? So I'm gonna square off 1.5 exactly where that notch is. Okay? I'm gonna do seam allowances later. And I'm gonna decide how deep is gonna be the hem on my sleeve. So this looks like 2.5. So I'm gonna do 2.5 here. 2.5 here. And for those of you that are taking the apparel class, remember that we did the offset pattern outline and we had the option of extend, perpendicular, and mirror. Yeah. This is what mirror means, okay? So I'm going to cut my paper. I'm going to separate it. I need just seam allowance on this side. But I do need the extension on this side, because remember, these 2 notches go with these 2 notches, okay? So I don't need to do an extension here, but I'm gonna show you what that mirror means. And I'm gonna make it very soft in pencil so you guys can see it. If I continue my line like this, okay? But I am actually going to use this as a lining, correct? So if this was a lining, I'm going to fold it on that line. This is just for instructional purposes. Notice where the other line on the sleeve is, and look at where the extended line is. You see that difference? So we wouldn't have been able to actually line it, right? This is what mirror means. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use the tracing wheel right here. And I'm going to open it, and you see how it comes in and it comes out. So that way when it's folded in with the lining, it's going to match. Does that make sense? Right? That's the problem that I have with my pants. I'm so short and pants start tapering that when I hem them up, the edge of what I hemmed it up is narrower than the outside of the leg, and is not a pretty sight. So here I'm going to do a notch. so I know exactly where I'm going to fold it. Everybody okay? All right, so we have the extension, we have the hem. Now we're going to create what is called a miter corner. You guys can see on my cuff, I have that seam right in the angle and the inside. You see it? Right? So this is how we're going to do. I can cut some of this off because now I know how long my sleeve is going to be because I added my hemline. Okay? So I'm going to fold it up at the hem and I'm going to fold it up on the seam of the sleeve. Right? Now I'm going to get the paper and I'm going to find the angle on where it meets the hem and the extension. Remember that this is going to have a seam allowance. So maybe I'm going to add that 1/2 inch so they can connect at that corner. Okay? So maybe I'll fold it a little bit less right there. So here I'm going to make a line up to here. And then I'm going to flip it and I'm going to make the same line on the other side. So let me open it so you guys can see it. Okay? This is not necessarily a perfectly straight line. I'm making a point of showing you this. This is not just a diagonal line. It has actually different angles, each one of them. So when you sew it, they're going to match. So to this, again, I'm going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay? And I'm going to keep a notch right here on the center. Here I'm going to add seam allowance. Here I'm going to add seam allowance. And so on. Okay? Yes, you're going to extend your lines here. And you're going to do seam allowance all the way around.
And here the seam allowance is going to
No,
go.
you already did the hem. That's a hem. So this is 2.5 for the hem. This is 1/2 inch seam allowance everywhere else. On
So
a
this
hem,
is basically like the seam allowance.
this is the edge of the sleeve. This is how long the sleeve is going to be. This is going to be inside the hem.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So,
We're sewing the lining to that hem, right?
yeah, but your lining on your sleeves is not exact. You always, let me show you.
Right.
Let me show you so you guys can see. Your lining should always, see how pretty it looks? Your lining should always be longer. You should have this little pleat here. That way, if the lining pulls on the inside, it's not going to be pulling outside on the sleeve. Also, I have a different kind of lining here, and it originally was made out of Bamberg rayon. Okay, fairly expensive. I don't want you guys to use it. Polyester would be just as good, because if it would have been on a different fabric, it would have the friction with your arm. And this way, my sleeve is going to slide in. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay.
We should stop.
So for your lining, you want to stop it and keep going?